Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 125 based on novel. So let's start. With a slight surprise in his heart, Xiao Yan's action to leave also stopped. His dark eyes quickly looked at the direction of the breath. At the same time, the fighting spirit in his body also ran quietly at this moment. According to Xiao Yang's recent judgment on the breath of the strong, the breath within Xiao Yang's perception seems to belong to a strong man fighting the emperor. However, because the relative distance between the two sides is far, Xiao Yang can't judge whether he knows the identity of the owner of the breath for a moment. Damn, it seems that I can only hide first. Unexpectedly, I met this guy just after I recovered. After biting his teeth, Xiao Yang suddenly had a dignified heart in his heart. Now it's not time yet. If Xiao Yang is allowed to face the strong fighting emperor alone, it will undoubtedly cause great trouble to Xiao Yang. Although he is confident that he can retreat from an ordinary fighting emperor, Xiao Yang doesn't want to compete with them if he can. Of course, whether Xiao Yang wants to meet the strong man of fighting emperor or not depends on the strong man of fighting emperor who is flying towards Xiao Yang. At the moment, Xiao Yang can only hope that this person is not coming for him to the greatest extent. Otherwise, I'm afraid there will be another fierce battle. As for the idea of escaping, it was just born at the bottom of Xiao Yang's heart and was wiped away by Xiao Yang. Without knowing the other party's specific strength and purpose, his rash behavior will only attract the other party's attention. Once Xiao Yang is identified by the other party, the result will inevitably be a war. Since there is little difference between running and not running, why should Xiao Yang waste his energy in vain? Glancing quickly across the continuous mountains below, Xiao Yang quickly found a relatively obscure dense forest. Even if he didn't hesitate too much, he quickly fell down and entered the dense forest. At the same time, Xiao Yang's breath converged, held his breath and paid careful attention to the void he had just stood. He could feel that the master of the breath was getting closer and closer. With the breath getting closer and closer, the expression on Xiao Yang's face became extremely dignified. Until a moment, when there was a figure all over the empty space, Xiao Yang's face suddenly became stunned. Because, at the moment, the figure suddenly appeared in the void, which made Xiao Yang's mood tense for a long time. It was Zhao Xian who was shocked by Murong Hao's strength 7 days ago and fled in panic. Zhao Xian. At the sight of the guy in front of him, Xiao Yang was surprised. It was really unimaginable that he was shocked back by a strong man like Murong Hao. This guy dared to come here again after 7 days. Is this guy really afraid of death? At the same time, Xiao Yang, who was in the dark, couldn't help casting a curious look at Zhao Xian in the sky. Since this guy dares to come here again at the risk of death, there must be a lot of reasons. Otherwise, he will not be willing to appear here again with the risk of death on his head. Zhao Xian, who is now born, still looks very pale. Although the injury in his body has been preliminarily restrained, it is just a temporary cure rather than a permanent cure. This can be seen from the extreme weakness of his body. In addition, now he has lost an arm by Murong Hao, and his strength has been greatly damaged, which makes Zhao Xian weaker than he looks. Perhaps this is the reason why Xiao Yang can't recognize his identity after sensing the breath of the former. To understand this, Xiao Yang couldn't help but show a sneer on his face. 7 days ago, this guy almost took his life. At that time, Xiao Yang was as weak as a lamb in front of him. It was only 7 days, but the prey and hunter had changed their positions. With this in mind, Xiao Yang couldn't help being curious. If this guy saw his full appearance in front of him, what a wonderful expression would appear on Zhao Xian's face. However, Xiao Yang is not in a hurry to show up. He also wants to know what it is for. Zhao Xianzai will return here again 7 days later. When Xiao Yang stared again, Zhao Xian, a pair of scarlet eyes filled with blood, was searching carefully on the mountain below. The soul power, which became extremely weak due to injury, also carefully spread out at this moment. It looked carefully in the mountains below, as if it was looking for something. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang in the dark couldn't help but slightly eyebrow and think a little in his heart. Then, Xiao Yang understood all this in front of him. 9 times out of 10, Zhao Xian came back here again. I'm afraid it's all to find his Naji. It is precisely because there is no Naji that Zhao Xian can't quickly recover his injury with the help of pills, which leads to the fact that he is still so weak after 7 days. Zhao Xian clearly understands that without the help of pills, he wants to recover from the injury in his body. I don't know when. Once it's delayed for a long time, it will leave him indelible sequelae. Moreover, once his seriously injured body meets other strong fighters, he will be in danger at that time. Although they are both fighting emperors, I believe they will not let go of the falling dog. Therefore, although he knew that Murong Hao might still be here, Zhao Xian had to take risks in order to recover from his injury as soon as possible. However, judging from the current situation, Zhao Xian's move is right. Murong Hao left here a few days ago. Now, as long as Zhao Xian can find his arm cut off by Murong Hao 7 days ago, he can return to his hand again. At the same time, what Zhao Xian remembers most is the 4th level pill in Naji. Huaji pill. Ah! Found it. At a certain moment, Zhao Xian's pale face couldn't help showing a happy look. His right arm had been broken. Now he can find Naji, which is a blessing in misfortune. It makes Zhao Xian's heart suddenly become a lot easier at the moment. As Zhao Xian's weak soul strength slowly retracted, a broken arm also slowly floated overhead from the mountains below. Hehe, this is really a surprise in an accident. However, at this time, a dull light laughter came from the faint. At the same time, Zhao Xian's pale face also changed suddenly. The next moment, when Zhao Xian turned his head in horror and looked at the void aside, a young figure in black robes was looking at him with his arms around his chest and a sneering grin. You! Xiao Yang. At the sight of Xiao Yang, Zhao Xian was suddenly struck by lightning, and his pale face suddenly changed into a color of horror. Then, while the whole person stepped back, his eyes filled with horror were also quickly scanning the sky. Looking at this, he seemed to be afraid of something. Seeing this, Xiao Yang couldn't help laughing and said coldly, "Oh, don't look for it. They have left here long ago. Now there are only you and me here." After hearing Xiao Yang's words, Zhao Xian slowly withdrew his eyes with lingering fear. At the same time, a violent color appeared in Xiao Yang's eyes. "Xiao Yang, unexpectedly, you are still here." The low voice slowly spits out from Zhao Xian's mouth, but because of Zhao Xian's state at the moment, it makes the voice sound a little powerless, just like an old man in twilight. Nevertheless, it is not difficult for people to hear the resentment and killing intention contained in the words. It was because of Xiao Yang in front of him that he was forcibly cut off and hid in the mountains for several days like a lost dog. Now, he saw that Xiao Yang was safe and sound, and Zhao Xian's anger was naturally difficult to restrain. "Ha ha! I also didn't expect that you dare to come back here again. It seems that Huaji pill is quite attractive to you." With a slight smile, Xiao Yang's eyes shifted to the bottom. At the moment, it was controlled by Zhao Xian and slowly flew over the broken arm. To be exact, it should be the ring worn on the finger of the broken arm. Hearing the speech, the look on Zhao Xian's face immediately became gloomy. A pair of scarlet eyes stared at Xiao Yang, and the boundless killing intention didn't need to be explained too much. Xiao Yang, just by you, how dare you attack our Huaji pill?" After a long time, the hoarse voice came out of Zhao Xian's mouth again. While saying this, it can be clearly seen that Zhao Xian's body was slightly trembling because of the murderous intention in his chest. A trace of white fighting spirit slowly emerged from Zhao Xian's body, and his face also recovered a trace of ruddy under the lingering of this fighting spirit. Well, seeing this, Xiao Yang can't help but slightly pick his eyebrows. The thin camel is bigger than the horse. Although Zhao Xian is so weak at the moment, he is a strong fighter against the emperor anyway. If Xiao Yang dares to take it lightly and doesn't keep it together, he will be severely bitten by this guy. If at ordinary times, I really don't have the ability to rob you of this Huaji pill, but who let you appear in front of me in this state, so I'll accept this Huaji pill impolitely today. With a sneer, Xiao Yang is not afraid. Even if Zhao Xian in front of him is still difficult to deal with, is he easy to provoke? 7 days ago, Xiao Yang could break Zhao Xian's arm. 7 days later, he could kill this guy. While the words fell, Xiao Yang's body flashed, and Tianju's step at his feet immediately showed up. In a twinkling of an eye, he had come close to Zhao Xian, and the muscles on his right arm bulged. Then, the white palms suddenly clenched into a fist, and the fight in his body poured out, and a fist fell hard on Zhao Xian's head. Seeing Xiao Yang coming, Zhao Zhuozhong's pupil first shrunk slightly, and then turned into a cold hum. When his body tilted to one side, his right leg suddenly lifted up, and one foot met Xiao Yang's fist. The right arm was empty, and the left arm whose bones were broken by Xiao Yang could not be used for the time being. Therefore, Zhao Xian had to focus his whole body on his legs. Bang! One hit, Xiao Yang and Zhao Xian flew back. With a shock, Xiao Yang's body stood firmly on the void. On the other side, Zhao Xian did not lose the wind. His right foot stepped on the void. While the great force poured out, Zhao Xian also stood steadily on the void. With a light hum, Xiao Yang's eyebrows wrinkled up. At the same time, the look on his face also became cold. Although the collision just now is short, Xiao Yang can also feel it. Although Zhao Xian's strength is much lower than before, it is still impossible for Xiao Yang to beat him in a short time. Zhao Xian's state alone at the moment, even if he is weak to this extent, the ordinary half-emperor can't beat him, but unfortunately, Xiao Yang is not an ordinary half-emperor. Who? Spit out a breath, and soon, Xiao Yang slowly raised his right arm. The next moment, when Zhao Xian raised his eyes and stared at Xiao Yang suddenly gave a low drink. At the same time, the raised right palm suddenly grasped it. With a black light flashing, the black heavy ruler immediately fell into Xiao Yang's hand. When the heavy ruler appeared, the look on Zhao Xian's face changed slightly and showed his weapon. It seems that Xiao Yang also plans to show his real strength. At the thought of this, Zhao Xian was awe-inspiring. However, he couldn't think more. Xiao Yang, holding a heavy ruler, rushed over to Zhao Xian again. It's not so easy to take advantage of the fire. After biting his teeth, Zhao Xianxin read a move, and the fighting spirit in his body surged up again. He quickly covered his legs and bumped up against Xiao Yang. Bang! The earth-shaking sound swept the world. Xiao Yang waved the heavy ruler from high to low, which was blocked by Zhao Xian. The two hit each other. Zhao Xian snorted coldly, retreated back again, pedaled his feet, covered his violently trembling right leg, and quickly calmed down his uncertain look on his face. Obviously, although it doesn't matter what he pretends, in fact, Zhao Xian, who is at a disadvantage in all aspects, still has a lot of pressure in the face of Xiao Yang. The blow was fruitless, which also surprised Xiao Yang, but then Xiao Yang lifted the giant ruler in his hand again, moved and rushed up again. Zhao Xian on the opposite side dared not underestimate when he saw Xiao Yang attack again. His body was moving rapidly. There was little fighting spirit left in his body, and then he poured out of his body crazily again. Bang bang! Successive collision sounds resounded through the sky. Waves of surging energy ripples swept across the positive sky like waves. The invisible void collapsed under this force, and the whole heaven and earth changed color. In the twinkling of an eye, the fierce fight in the sky had lasted for several hours. I saw that the sky over their heads gradually became dark, but the battle on the field was not known for a long time. Although Zhao Xian is not in a state, he is also a strong fighter against the emperor. Under the rapid consumption of fighting spirit in his body, he reluctantly took over Xiao Yang's attack again and again. Of course, while the fighting spirit is extremely consumed, Zhao Xian's state at the moment is inevitable to become weaker. At the same time, Xiao Yang, who responded positively, is no better at the moment. The consumption of fighting spirit is from both sides. While Zhao Xian's fighting spirit is consumed violently, Xiao Yang's fighting spirit is also consumed a lot. Moreover, because Zhao Xian is a strong man fighting against the emperor, the filling degree of fighting qi in his body is more than that of Xiao Yang. Even now he has been injured, he can't be much worse than Xiao Yang in terms of fighting qi reserves alone. Standing on the void with a pale face, we can easily see that the lingering senbai fighting spirit on Zhao Xian's body surface has become much thinner than before. Even on his face, there are several green lumps of different sizes, which are obviously given to him by Xiao Yang. But even so, just a few skin injuries can't really prove anything. Even if the situation in the field seems to be that Xiao Yang has the upper hand, it depends on who has more means to completely end the battle. Xiao Yang, if you want to eat from the tiger's mouth, you must first see how many kilograms you are. Staring at Xiao Yang with a sinister face, Zhao Xian gasped and smiled grimly at Xiao Yang. In the process of colliding with Xiao Yang, although Zhao Xian suffered losses several times, they are all small things. I believe that with his physical strength of fighting the emperor and the strong, as long as Xiao Yang can't beat him in a short time, the final winner is not necessarily. Of course, this premise is that Xiao Yang cannot defeat him in a short time. A tiger without teeth can't eat people even if its claws are so sharp. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang sneered and grinned. Immediately, the look in his eyes suddenly changed, and the fighting spirit in his body immediately became very turbulent. 3 mysterious changes in the sky fire. 1 change. As Xiao Yang's heart fell, the breath in Xiao Yang's body suddenly soared. A pair of dark eyes were also quickly filled with gorgeous different fire. The change of breath in Xiao Yang's body also made Zhao Xian's face slightly changed. Then, Xiao Yang waved the huge ruler in his hand, and the sound of the breaking wind immediately resounded through the void. Great force poured down, and the invisible void spread out invisible ripples. After biting his teeth, Zhao Xian's pale face showed a solemn color. The change of Xiao Yang's breath made him have an uneasy mood from the bottom of his heart. Poof! The giant ruler trembled slightly. Just listening to the poof, the gorgeous different fire rose up and quickly covered the whole giant ruler. The different fire rose, the terrible high temperature spread and opened, and the surrounding void could not help being distorted. Feeling the high temperature rising rapidly around the world, Zhao Xian's face changed again. He was also afraid of Xiao Yang's strange fire. The horror of different fire is affirmed by the whole continent. Even if Zhao Xian is a strong fighter, he can't regard it as nothing. What about different fire? It's so easy to defeat the Buddha. Zhao Xian frantically urged a few fighting spirit in his body, and condensed a dim fighting spirit mask on the body surface to isolate the hot breath in the surrounding air. It seems that Zhao Xian is not as calm as he sounds in his words. Seeing this, Xiao Yang couldn't help sneering in his heart. Immediately, his arm shook, and the giant ruler in his hand was waved and lifted. Drink! At the same time that the giant ruler was raised, Xiao Yang's startling cry came out. His feet moved, and Tianju's step came out in an instant. Then the next moment, Xiao Yang's body came to Zhao Xian again. Waving the giant ruler, Ling was above Xiao Yang's head. He held the handle of the heavy ruler tightly with both hands. The strange fire in his body was madly injected into the giant ruler. The gorgeous flame wrapped on it also rose into the sky at this moment. Angry thunder waterfall. In the face of Xiao Yang, Zhao Xian's face also looked dignified. His body retreated rapidly. At the same time, in front of him, Sen's white fighting spirit condensed rapidly, and in the twinkling of an eye, it condensed into a flashing angry thunder. Thunder fell from the sky and intertwined into a thunder waterfall in front of Zhao Xian. At the moment when Xiao Yang's heavy ruler fell, he collided with it. When the two touch each other, the bright light immediately bursts from the junction of the two. The dazzling light makes it difficult to open your eyes. In the middle of the light, the giant ruler wrapped by the strange fire suddenly trembled violently, and thunder rushed up the giant ruler like a thunder snake, struggling with the strange fire covered on it, as if he had to fight for life and death. Hiss, hiss. With the fighting between the different fire and the thunder, a hissing sound sounded in the sky, and Xiao Yang was blocked by Zhao Xian's angry thunder waterfall. Half Emperor is half Emperor. How can you override the gap between half Emperor and fighting Emperor? Seeing that Xiao Yang was blocked, Zhao Xian's pale face couldn't help showing a cruel smile. In looking at Xiao Yang, he was also full of disdain. However, when the cold laughter in his mouth just fell, Xiao Yang, who was resisted by the angry thunder waterfall, also raised a pair of eyes filled with fire at this moment, and the sneer at the corners of his mouth gradually expanded. 3 mysterious changes and 2 changes in the sky fire. With a low drink from his heart, Xiao Yang suddenly forced his palm holding the ruler handle, and the fighting spirit in his body became more violent at this moment, and then injected into the giant ruler in his hand. Boom! The strange fire swept through and the heavy ruler fell on the angry thunder waterfall. The thunder waterfall originally condensed by thunder burst open a thick crack in the arm under the blow of Xiao Yang. 3 changes. Suddenly, Xiao Yang's startling cry came out again. The bright fire burst out from Xiao Yang's eyes and turned into a strange fire beam. With the heavy ruler falling, it tore up the thunder waterfall in front of him mercilessly. Then, he tore up the heavy ruler of the waterfall and bombarded Zhao Xian on his chest in his extremely frightened eyes. Bang! With a bang, you can clearly hear a burst sound like a balloon explosion. At the same time, Zhao Xian's mouth also spewed out a large piece of scarlet blood mixed with visceral fragments. The blood coagulated into a blood arrow and shot away at the oncoming Xiao Yang. Seeing this, Xiao Yang frowned and hummed coldly. His body rushed forward slightly. As soon as he spun his huge ruler and flew over with different fire, he easily broke the blood arrow. At this time, Zhao Xian also flew backward with incomparably weak breath. Finally, he fell hard into the mountains below. Bang! Lower down, the heavy ruler in Xiao Yang's hand fell on the ground beside Zhao Xian. For a long time, the dust was flying, and huge cracks, like a spider's web, expanded rapidly at the place where the heavy ruler fell. Puff! On one side, Zhao Xian's pale face suddenly turned red, and then puffed. A mouthful of scarlet blood burst out. Then, when the blood gushed out, Zhao Xian's breath quickly became weak. Looking coldly at Zhao Xian, whose face was as pale as paper in front of him, Xiao Yang's face was cold, and his big hand was cold. With the sweeping of a soul force, after a few breaths, a broken arm fell into Xiao Yang's hand. Zhao Xian, lying on the ground like a dead body, saw the broken arm in Xiao Yang's hand, and his pale face couldn't help but show a deep color of resentment. The scarlet lips stained with fresh blood trembled slightly, and the slightly laborious hoarse voice of words slowly vomited out of Zhao Xian's mouth. Xiao Yang. You. Mean. Hearing the words from Zhao Xian's mouth, Xiao Yang couldn't help but slightly raised his eyebrows. He couldn't help but show a strange look on his face. Immediately, a sneer arose from the corners of his mouth and said, "Oh, despicable. I really don't adapt to this from your mouth. After all, if you want to say despicable, I'm a half-emperor, and I can't compare with you." Zhao Xian naturally understood the meaning of Xiao Yang's words. Immediately, on his pale and bloodless face, his face suddenly became iron blue. Hiss. Then, Xiao Yang picked up the black giant ruler inserted in the earth. As soon as the edge of the ruler turned, it moved over Zhao Xian's head. As long as Xiao Yang held the palm of the giant ruler slightly, the huge ruler would fall on Zhao Xian's head mercilessly. Zhao Xian felt a sudden chill in his heart when he felt the rustling wind pressure on his head, which made his scalp numb. At the same time, he clenched his teeth secretly. His fierce eyes suddenly looked at Xiao Yang and said in a strong voice, Xiao Yang, even if you can kill yourself today, you don't want to leave alive." When the words fell, the fighting spirit in Zhao Xian's body quickly became violent at this moment. His thin body appeared due to heavy injury. At this moment, it sounded quickly at the speed visible to the naked eye, just like a look of self-explosion. "Hee, why do you want to threaten me with self-explosion?" Seeing this, Xiao Yang sneered. The giant ruler in his hand took it back in the opposite way. Do you really dare to kill me?" Seeing Xiao Yang take back his giant ruler, Zhao Xian naturally doesn't care too much about the words in his mouth. He only thinks that Xiao Yang doesn't dare to do it easily again. After all, as Xiao Yang said, he is a strong man fighting against the emperor. Once he explodes, he will have to pay a high price even if Xiao Yang bears the self-explosion of a strong man fighting against the emperor at his peak. What about the strong man fighting the emperor? Since he is already seriously injured, I will kill him. A cold smile, and then Xiao Yang's heart moved, and the fighting spirit in his body quickly surged up. While waving the giant ruler in his hand, Xiao Yang's mouth heard an earth-shaking dragon sing, which was also mighty. Roar. At the moment when the roar came out, a majestic soul force immediately swept out and turned into an invisible wave, sweeping over Zhao Xian's body. At the same time, the power contained in the dragon chant also made Zhao Xian lose his mind. At the same time, with the violent fighting spirit in his body, it also stagnated at this moment. And then, bang! With a violent bang, Zhao Xian's body was blasted out by Xiao Yang again. Self-explosion? As long as you keep dizzy, I think you can explode. At the same time, Xiao Yang's figure was tight, and then appeared over Zhao Xian's head again. With a big mouth, the sky-shaking dragon chant came out again. The void shook, and Zhao Xian, who was already seriously injured, couldn't bear it in the sound of the dragon chant. He didn't wait for him to recover. The sound of the dragon chant again made him lose his mind again. The fighting spirit in his body was always at a standstill, and the giant ruler in Xiao Yang's hand was mercilessly smashed again. Bang! 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 After more than 10 times of bombardment, under the merciless bombardment of the giant ruler, every bone of Zhao Xian was broken. Zhao Xian's breath became dying under the constant bombardment, just like a dead person. Bang! When the giant ruler in Xiao Yang's hand fell again, it hit Zhao Xian's chest, which had completely become a pit. Under this attack, it can even be clearly seen that the front of the heavy ruler has almost penetrated Zhao Xian's back, and the only piece of brocade robe left on his back is also reduced to pieces under this attack. While the bone was broken, blood flowed from the torn back, and Zhao Xian's breath dissipated completely under this foot. With Zhao Xian's breath completely dissipated between the heaven and earth, Xiao Yang, who has been in a high consumption state, finally breathed out a long breath, and the whole person became a lot easier. But at the same time of his rest, a cold light flashed through the bottom of Xiao Yang's eyes. Slowly relax, Xiao Yang looks straight ahead and lets Zhao Xian's body, which has lost any breath, fall from the void. The giant ruler in his hand is in a flash, and Xiao Yang is included in the ring. The slightly pale face showed a tired color. The violent bombardment just now seemed to make Xiao Yang consume a lot. With his legs crossed, Xiao Yang sat on the void. His tired eyes closed slowly and slowly entered the state of cultivation. However, at the same time, in the void behind Xiao Yang, the void space was slowly distorted, and a thin figure with a slightly illusory body appeared behind Xiao Yang like a ghost. This person is Zhao Xian's soul. Under the fierce bombardment of Xiao Yang, Zhao Xian's body has indeed been seriously damaged. Helpless, he hid it. However, seeing Xiao Yang enter the cultivation state in front of him at the moment, it gives Zhao Xian a great opportunity. In this state, Zhao Xian is confident that he can kill Xiao Yang before he reacts. At that time, he can not only get back the ring, but also kill Xiao Yang and kill him. Why not kill two birds with one stone? Greedy in his heart, Zhao Xiandang even slowly approached Xiao Yang, took one palm as a blade, aimed at Xiao Yang's neck, and wanted to cut it off. But at the next moment, Zhao Xian's pale face changed suddenly. Xiao Yang, who had already entered the state of cultivation, had a gorgeous flame rising on his body surface without warning. When Zhao Xian regained his consciousness, he found that even in the void around him, 7 black tents had appeared, which had become an encirclement and surrounded him. He, play with the means of soul hiding in front of me. Have you forgotten that I'm a herbalist? While Zhao Xian's face showed a frightened look, in front of him, Xiao Yang's body, which had been sitting on the void, dissipated slowly. Then, Xiao Yang's words full of banter came from behind Zhao Xian. Residual shadow. The strange appearance in front of Zhao Xian startled him. While his pale face suddenly changed, his eyes turned back in horror. Behind Zhao Xian, Xiao Yangjing put his hands around his chest, sneered at the corners of his mouth, and stared at Zhao Xian coldly. At the same time, between heaven and earth, strands of mysterious energy invisible to the naked eye, following Xiao Yang's traction, continue to flow into the 7 black tents surrounding Zhao Xian. This tent is the 6 tents that Xiao Yang condensed with the Void Avenue after understanding the power of the avenue. However, different from before, there is one more tent out of the 6 tabernacles at the moment than before. In the previous battle, it was only a short moment for Xiao Yang to exert his great power. Therefore, Zhao Xian didn't care much about the strange tent. Until now, after Zhao Xian was surrounded by the 7 tents, he deliberately observed it carefully. When Zhao Xian found that the strange black tent was condensed by the power of the road, Oreo was determined by Zhao Shendo's strong emperor, and his face couldn't help a sudden upheaval. At the same time, he couldn't help shouting in his mouth. This is the power of the road. How is this possible? At the moment of recognizing that this is the power of the road, Zhao Xian's mood was immediately difficult to control. He could not imagine how a half-emperor boy could control the power of the road. The power of the road is ethereal and difficult to find. Even the strong at the level of fighting emperor may not be able to understand it. There are even many strong people. Although their cultivation has far exceeded that of ordinary fighting emperor strong people, they also have nothing to do with the power of the road. The power of the road is different from the ordinary power between heaven and earth. The control of the power of the road has no shortcut except to understand it with heart. Of course, the relative difficulty of understanding the power of the road also makes it have more powerful power, which makes more people crazy. Generally speaking, those who can control the power of the road are at least super strong at the level of fighting emperor. Because the exertion of the power of the great road consumes fighting spirit, and only those who fight the emperor can exert the power of the great road for a long time. As for the semi-emperor strong, let alone fighting spirit, at least there has never been anyone on the mainland who has the power of the semi-emperor strong to control the great road. Nothing is impossible. If you have to think so stubbornly, it can only be said that you are ignorant. Seeing the unbelievable look on Zhao Xian's face, Xiao Yang said with a cold smile and a mocking look. Hearing Xiao Yang's words, the expression on Zhao Xian's face did not calm down, but became more and more dignified. Until now, Zhao Xianfang really found that the power Xiao Yang has is far more powerful than he imagined. After all, Zhao Xian has never mastered the power of this avenue alone. Who are you? Sacred. Surrounded by 7 tents, Zhao Xian only felt cold and a breath of death. He didn't know when it had enveloped Zhao Xian. Zhao Xian was full of panic and the muscles in the corners of his eyes twitched violently. Well, hearing the speech, Xiao Yang raised his eyebrows lightly, immediately his eyes flickered slightly, grinned and said, Xiao Yang is just an unknown person from the fighting mainland. With the words coming out of Xiao Yang's mouth, the expression on Zhao Xian's face suddenly solidified, and the horror in his heart could no longer be easily described in words. Yes, I believe no matter who hears these words, I'm afraid they will feel incredible about it. Perhaps, in this Yuanwu continent, some people are about to forget the name that can't attract attention. Fighting Spirit Continent, a continent where no strong person has come here for thousands of years, has gradually become a distant history in the hearts of some people. In the hearts of most people in Yuanwu mainland, the mainland of fighting spirit may have long been regarded by them as a deserted continent. For this, even Zhao Xian in the past is no exception. However, today, a young man in black with a heavy ruler stands in the western regions of Yuanwu mainland with such a proud attitude. Even if he has provoked all forces, he still has a fearless expression. Who can believe that his Xiao Yang came from the abandoned continent which is considered by everyone to be a barren land? Hiss. Xiao Yang totally ignored the frightened look on Zhao Xian's face. As soon as his big hand called, the dark Xian heavy ruler fell into Xiao Yang's hands again. The ruler front fell and made a hissing sound in the air while rubbing fiercely with the air. The strong wind pressure brought a hurricane and swept across the sky. Ah! A little surprised, Zhao Xian then returned to his mind. What he was facing was Xiao Yang's thick giant ruler. Cough. Mr. Xiao Yang, do you have to kill me? Zhao Xian's illusory pupils suddenly shrunk and paused when he felt the bloody smell of the heavy ruler's front, which made him hoarse. Didn't you also say that the battle between us was actually a misunderstanding from the beginning, so in that case? Oh, you don't have to say so much nonsense. What else can you do? Just try it together. Even if you say more, you'll still die. Without waiting for Zhao Xian's words to fall, Xiao Yang gave a faint sneer. At the same time, the giant ruler clenched in his hand suddenly waved. The huge force surged in, and the sound of the broken wind of hunting sounded in Zhao Xian's ears. Hum. As his face changed, a bitter cold hum came out of Zhao Xian's mouth. Xiao Yang, I will die today, and I will ask you to pay the price of bleeding. As the bitter cold cry came out, Zhao Xian's illusory body suddenly shook violently. At the same time, a crazy and strange attraction came out suddenly in Zhao Xian's body at this moment. At the same time, the look on Xiao Yang's face could not help but change for a moment. When the suction came, he was frightened to feel that the soul power in his body was being torn by the strange suction. And then, in Zhao Xian's mouth, the startling cry came out suddenly. Human-level soul skill, Yang soul determination. This video will end here.